This is Stephanie Kraft, part 2 of my reading of my chapter from the book, The Ways to God. You cannot think your way to God. I spent the next 18 years as a non-believer. I didn't think that anything we couldn't see existed. I could not understand how people could believe in a God they could not see. I was ignorant and blind. It was the year 2000. I was 28 and living in Denver, Colorado. A friend of mine recommended that I go see her psychic, just for fun. I was surprised at this recommendation because I considered this friend to be an intelligent woman. I could not understand why she would waste her money on such a thing, something fake like a psychic. I did not believe in such things. I thought it was a scam. She convinced me to listen to the cassette tape recording of her session. To my surprise, I was amazed by it. This psychic knew things about her that he could not have possibly known, so I agreed to go see him. I told him I was skeptical and that I was just going to see what came up without sharing anything about myself. He was gracious about that and understood my position. In that session, he was able to read my heart and soul in a way that astounded me. I was blown away. How could he know these things? He told me that I was a healer and a teacher. This statement rang a bell of resonance very deep inside of me. It touched me at the soul level, and I knew it was true. It woke something up inside of me that had been dormant my whole life. At the time, I had been looking into getting a master's degree in acupuncture, a doctorate in naturopathic medicine, or a PhD in psychoneuroimmunology, so that I could help people in a profound way. I had already received a Master's of Science in Health, Fitness, Promotion, and Management in 1996, but I felt a deep soul calling to go even deeper into the areas of mind, body, spirit healing, and alternative medicine. I felt a soul yearning inside of me to help people in very deep ways. So when this psychic told me things about my heart and soul that no one else could have known, it opened up my world. If he knew these things, then there is so much more out there that I didn't know. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed the entire night with my eyes closed, attempting to sleep. But instead of sleeping, I felt ecstatic. I felt euphoric. It was as if the lid had been blown off the entire world for me, and with my eyes closed, I could see the universe. I was seeing the galaxies, the stars, and the universe all night long in my third eye. My crown and third eye chakras were opened explosively as a result of this psychic reading that changed my life. Now I knew there was so much more to existence than that I had previously denied. This was my spiritual awakening. It was more profound than anything I can put into words. It was the beginning of my shift into the expanse of the unknown, the open, the possible, and the feeling that there was more. I didn't know it yet, but it was my way to God. A lot happened that year, and it was not easy. I went through several spiritually transformative experiences, but I also faced numerous health crises, emergency room visits, and extreme fatigue that took over my life. I was physically unwell. Something was off, and I could no longer function as I once had. I didn't know what was wrong with me, and I was desperately and obsessively searching for answers. Trying to figure out what was wrong with me took over my life and my thoughts. It was a very hard time. Beginning to feel God. In April of 2000, I attended a weekend workshop at the acupuncture school in Maryland, which I had planned to attend the following year. The love and openness in the room and from the leaders of the workshop were palpable. There was something in that experience that opened me up emotionally. I felt like I was finally coming home to something, perhaps to myself, to love, and to God. But my consciousness could not understand that yet. I felt the need to cry a lot, but I held back the tears the entire time. I was having a heart opening, but I didn't understand what that was at the time. There was another participant in the workshop who openly sobbed the entire weekend. I was envious of her being able to do that so openly, and if I had let my tears flow, I would also have been crying just like her the whole time. However, growing up in a household where showing emotions was not allowed made me shy about crying in front of others, so I swallowed my tears. I believe that when we hold back our tears, we are hurting ourselves and making ourselves sick. This workshop was about healing and coming home to yourself. It was so profoundly emotional and awakening for me that it was life-changing. I have the sense that this was a taste of God being so very present with me and in the room. I just wasn't at the place where I could understand that yet. In essence, this workshop was about coming home to love. And since God is love, it was about coming home to God. That weekend, I had the experience of feeling God, and my heart was opening, and I was feeling so much love. And yet, I didn't have it in my consciousness yet that it was God that I was feeling. It felt as though God was tapping me on the shoulder the entire year through both loving and painful experiences, though at the time I didn't realize it. God is not a mental concept. True understanding of God does not come from thinking, conceptualizing, or trying to figure it out. There can be a belief in God, but the true knowing of God comes from directly experiencing God. I was just beginning to feel that energy, the energy of God, which is love. Illness, abuse, trauma, and suffering as a way to God. On July 20th, 2000, my father was diagnosed with terminal cancer at 56 years old. He was given 8 to 10 months to live. Upon hearing this devastating news, I dropped everything in Denver and planned my move back home to Washington, D.C. to take care of him. When I found out that my father was going to die, I found myself crying uncontrollably every day in the weeks leading up to my move back home to care for him. I cried more than I ever had in my life, and I couldn't understand why. My father and I had been close when I was very young, but by the time I was 5, he had become distant. He was not a very involved father. He had been a workaholic and emotionally unavailable. I later discovered that my father is in my soul group, so we have a close soul connection with each other. I believe this is the reason of the news The news of his terminal diagnosis and impending death was having such a profound effect on me. It felt like a soul-level mourning, something that was not easily comprehensible by the mind. I had already been struggling with my own health issues and searching for answers. But when my father became ill, I set my own needs aside completely and focused solely on taking care of him. While caring for my father, I didn't want him to see me upset or crying because I didn't want him to feel bad. So I held my tears back and tried to stay strong in his presence. All the crying I had done in the privacy of my apartment in Denver came to an abrupt stop when I arrived home in DC. I swallowed all of my tears. As I previously mentioned, I believe that holding in tears can cause illness. Repressing our emotions can make us sick. Tears have biochemicals that are released from the body, and our hormones shift when we cry in such a way that can cause us to feel calmer and more relaxed afterward. Holding in tears wasn't wise, and it was a very hard thing for me to do. My father passed away 5 months after his diagnosis on December 17th, 2000. During the rapid decline of my father's health and his dying process, my mother's abuse intensified. She had always been abusive, but she became substantially more abusive than she had ever been. She experienced several psychotic episodes during that time. My father was the victim most of the time, and I came in at a close second. Witnessing my mother severely abuse my dying father nearly killed me. It was one of the most traumatic experiences of my life. The stress of my father's illness, his impending death, being his full-time caretaker, my mother's abuse towards him and me, and holding in all of my tears during that time took its toll on me. I was not well. After my father's death, I found myself bedridden for 6 months, fighting for my life. It was 7:30 p.m. on the evening of my father's funeral. The house was full of people, including relatives who had come in from out of town and some of my close friends. Suddenly, I felt so unbearably tired. I turned to my friends and told them that I had to go to bed. I went upstairs and went to sleep while the house was still full of people. I had hit the wall. After my father died, my mother turned all of her rage and abuse towards me. I was living in her house, the home I'd grown up in since the age of 5. My adrenal fatigue, which wouldn't be diagnosed until the spring of 2001, had worsened to the point that I was now fighting for my life. I'd lost everything. I had nothing, not even my health. I'd given away or sold most of my belongings to move home to care for my father, and I'd lost so much weight that I no longer had clothes that fit me. The only pair of pants I had were too big for me, and they were completely frayed at the bottom. That's all I wore. I wasn't working, and I was living off credit cards, completely destitute. Through serendipity, I finally figured out what was wrong with me. In late January 2001, I started attending a prerequisite nutrition class at the Acupuncture Institute where I was planning on going to school. The instructor spoke about her doctor who had been treating her for adrenal fatigue. It went over my head, and I didn't know what she was talking about. She had written her doctor's name on the board in class. While at home one day, I was looking through a holistic magazine and came across a full-page ad featuring a questionnaire about particular symptoms. There were 56 symptoms listed. I had all of them. I was stunned. I read the name of the doctor on the ad, and lo and behold, it was the same doctor my instructor had written on the board in class. I really had no clue what she had been talking about in class regarding her adrenal health. But here I was with all 56 symptoms listed. I set up an appointment with this doctor. It took believing that I was on the path to acupuncture school, showing up for class once a week, even while bedridden and essentially fighting for my life, for me to be led to the doctor who would end up saving my life. We must follow the breadcrumbs that are laid out before us, even if we do not understand where they are leading. We are being guided each step of the way, even though we may not recognize that. I needed to be told about this doctor, and this is how it unfolded. I was guided to him through an extensive series of events. I had no business going to that nutrition class, being so sick, but I was there to be led to the doctor who would save me. It was my only outing each week, besides the 1 hour with my hospice counselor, whom I was seeing to help me survive the abuse at home. She was a grief counselor, but I told her in the first session that I was not there for grief about my father's death. I was there because I was being abused at home, and I needed help. This counselor was my lifeline. The one who kept me going. She was all I had. In fact, she was only allowed to see me for 8 weeks due to their policy. But because she knew, trying to get through this, everybody, but because she knew I was under tremendous stress at home and severely ill, she told me that she would secretly continue seeing me for 6 months. She was not allowed to do that, but she did. I weep in gratitude for this precious earth angel who was there for me in my time of need and helped me get through it. God brings us the people we need when we need them. And I'm going to conclude this portion. I'm not going to edit this because I don't really know how to edit videos. And this is the reality and the authenticity of my story, with me reading it, with the emotion coming through, and heck, why not just be real? So I'm going to record portion number 3 next. Stay tuned, and thank you for listening.